For Nazi Germany, 1941 turned into an utter catastrophe, a year that shattered illusions and ignited desperation. When they launched their massive invasion of the Soviet Union in June, the Nazis arrogantly predicted a swift victory, crushing the Red Army in just 6 weeks. "We have only to kick in the door," boasted Adolf Hitler, "and the whole rotten structure will come crashing down." But oh, how wrong. He was deadly wrong. By December, the unstoppable German blitzkrieg stalled at Moscow's frozen gates, only to be hurled back by a ferocious Soviet winter counteroffensive that caught them off guard. And the nightmares didn't stop there, far from it. Germany had once depended on the Soviets for vital raw materials, a twisted pact with their former ally. Now, locked in brutal combat, those supplies dwindled to nothing, leaving the Nazi war machine gasping for breath. But the ultimate blow came in December 1941. America stormed into the war on the Allies' side, a colossal force awakening. Hitler dreaded nothing more than a two-front war, especially against the industrial juggernaut of the United States, its factories churning out endless weapons of doom. His narrow window to seize victory was slamming shut, and panic set in. To counter America's overwhelming might, Hitler knew he had to smash the USSR fast before it was too late. Fueling this frenzy was Germany's ravenous hunger for resources, especially oil, the lifeblood of modern warfare that they desperately lacked. For Hitler, the vast oil fields of the southern Caucasus gleamed like a golden prize, the key to turning the tide or facing inevitable defeat without them. This ruthless quest for oil would explode into the deadliest clash of World War II, the epic, soul-crushing Battle of Stalingrad. Though hailed as the war's pivotal turning point, the battle's fate might have been sealed long before the Germans even glimpsed the city's skyline. To unravel this mystery, let's rewind to the very birth of the doomed plan. The German horde that barreled into the Soviet Union in 1941 was a behemoth, the largest invasion force history had ever witnessed. Yet, a year later, that mighty army was frayed thin across a staggering 2,500-kilometer front line, like a threadbare rope ready to snap. Army Group North besieged Leningrad in a vice of starvation, while Army Group Center endured relentless Soviet assaults around Rijev's blood-soaked fields. So, for this war-winning offensive, Army Group South scraped together just 72 German divisions, about 1 million men, a shadow of their former glory. Codenamed Fall Blau, or Case Blue, the operation unfolded in calculated phases, a high-stakes chess game on the steppes. First, smash through Soviet lines, seize Voronezh, and trap the Red Army in eastern Ukraine's deadly embrace. With those forces annihilated, Army Group South would divide like a predator splitting its pack. Army Group B would charge to Astrakhan, forging an iron barrier along the Don and Volga rivers. Then, Army Group A would veer south, hungry for the oil riches of Maikop and Grozny. By claiming Ukraine's fertile farmlands and the Caucasus's black gold, Hitler dreamed of arming Germany to defy the world and starve the Soviets into collapse by the next year. It sounded brilliant on paper, a masterstroke to challenge even the U.S. But reality? The plan was riddled with fatal cracks, teetering on the edge of disaster. Logistics were a nightmare, stretched the breaking point across endless distances that no army could conquer without crumbling. The Germans simply lacked the fuel, food, and firepower to pull it off. Desperate, Hitler bolstered his ranks with allies, mostly Romanians and Italians, brave but outgunned. These troops, vast in numbers, were woefully under-equipped, missing game changers like the legendary Flak 88 gun behind me, which the Germans wielded as a tank-slaying beast. And worst of all, Hitler underestimated the Soviets yet again, a colossal blunder. The Red Army could muster over 1 million more fighters, churning out fresh tank and air armies like a relentless factory of vengeance. Turning blue into triumph, it was a gamble against impossible odds. On the 28th of June, 1942, Operation Blau erupted into action. Expecting fierce resistance, the Germans were stunned. Stalin, fixated on a Moscow assault, had left the south vulnerable. The Red Army shattered and fled in chaotic retreat, a route that left the steppes wide open. In barely over a week, Voronezh fell, and the Southern Soviets seemed on the brink of total annihilation. Phase 2 ignited early on July 9, as Germans surged toward Rostov and the Don's sweeping bend. They aimed to encircle and crush the enemy, but the elusive Red Army slipped away, leaving the pincers clutching air. Meanwhile, back in Berlin, Hitler fretted over whispers of a Western Second Front. Indeed, Allied raiders would storm Dieppe weeks later. But with the Red Army crumbling like dust, victory tantalized him. Seizing the moment, on the 23rd of July, 1942, Hitler rewrote the script and unwittingly scripted his downfall. Now, both army groups chased their goals simultaneously, a reckless split that diluted their fury. As Army Group A bolted for the Caucasus, Army Group B got a shiny new target. Friedrich von Paulus's 6th Army must conquer Stalingrad first. Choking Soviet oil flows up the Volga. This division was a high-wire act, but Hitler's hubris soared. He even siphoned troops north to other groups. The remaining forces, they endured hell. Food shortages ravaged Germany, and frontline supplies were a mirage, forcing troops to scavenge the scorched earth, ruthlessly stripping locals bare. 6th Army devoured their own horses long before Stalingrad's shadow fell upon them. Yet Army Group A pressed on, scattering weak Soviet resistance. By August 10, they claimed Maikop's oil fields, only to find them sabotaged, wells in flames, repairs a distant dream. Army Group B, bogged down by supply woes and a Red Army finally rallying with teeth bared. They stalled Paulus for 3 grueling weeks, bleeding both sides in a storm of attrition. Hitler diverted units from A to B, and only then did 6th Army lurch forward. Crossing the Don on August 23, they breached Stalingrad's northern fringes, plunging into a nightmare of urban apocalypse. Defending the city, General Vasily Chuikov's 62nd Army, a grizzled veteran scarred by the Winter War's humiliations against Finland. With Stalin's gaze upon him, Chuikov vowed Stalingrad would not fall, no matter the cost. As battle raged, civilians clung to the ruins, sharing the soldiers' agony in a city-turned graveyard. The stage was set for war's most savage duel. It opened with a thunderous barrage, pulverizing Stalingrad into a skeletal wasteland. Civilians perished in droves, but the defenses held, and the rubble became a defender's ally, choking German tanks and favoring close-quarters chaos. For the Germans, this was their brutal initiation into street fighting, a far cry from Blitzkrieg's lightning strikes. The Red Army mastered the urban jungle, turning every shadow into a trap. Soviet snipers, like deadly ghosts, vied in kill counts, sowing terror that paralyzed Germans in daylight. By September's end, Stalingrad was a propaganda vortex, a meat grinder devouring souls. Hitler fixated on conquest, funneling men into the inferno. Stalin matched him, sacrificing hordes to hold his city. Beyond the walls, Red counterattacks hammered relentlessly, thinning Axis lines to breaking. Southward, Army Group A clashed with stiffening Soviets, their air cover stripped for Stalingrad, handing skies to the enemy. Logistics? A total catastrophe. Just 3 rickety rail lines, clogged and inadequate, starving 6th Army of ammo, fuel, and hope. Paulus begged for more men, but couldn't feed the ones he had, while Soviets ferried endless supplies across the Volga's lifeline. Chuikov's troops swelled with reinforcements, a river of steel keeping the defense alive. Germans faltered elsewhere. Their panzers, outmatched by the T-34's sloped armor beast behind me, a tank Hitler's experts called unbeatable. As winter howled in, both groups sputtered out. Luftwaffe bombed Grozny's fields in desperation. Sixth Army fought on fumes. Yet, by mid-November, they clutched 90% of the city's Soviets, gripping Volga scraps by sheer will. Misery reigned. Letters from soldiers like Fritz Luderitz reveal underground Christmases, carols in ruins, proxy weddings shadowed by death. He vanished, presumed gone. Operation Blau, a fiasco. Oil lost or ruined. Logistics shattered. Fronts overstretched 4,000 kilometers. And the defeated Soviets? They loomed stronger, poised for Operation Uranus, a hammer blow. November 19 to 20. Million-man pincers, tanks, planes crushed weak Axis allies. Romanians fought valiantly but buckled. Soviets flooded rear lines. With no reserves, Axis reeled pincers, linked at Kalach on the 23rd. Sixth Army trapped. Hitler's grand bet morphed into Armageddon. His morale-boosting telegram? Hollow words. My thoughts are with you. Everything will be done. But aid was a lie, too little, too late. Breakout pleas, ignored. Hitler clung to the city, ordering airlifts and Manstein's relief, both doomed. Little Saturn smashed Italians, relief aborted. Army Group A fled Caucasus. By January 1943, Sixth Army starved, frozen, broken, surrendered. Irony. Hitler promoted Paulus to field marshal, expecting suicide. He refused, captured alive. Though pockets resisted months more, Stalingrad fell. Axis toll. 500,000 lost. 200,000 POWs. Few returned, including Paulus. Over 1 million casualties, half dead, 14,000 executed by their own for cowardice. Civilians. 40 to 45,000 slain. Bloodiest battle ever. Stalingrad's shockwaves. Hitler's Eastern dreams drowned. USSR rose as a titan, eyeing Europe's spoils. At home, Hitler's strategist myth crumbled. Goebbels couldn't spin it. Seeds for the 1,944 plot zone. Truth. Odds against Germany pre-Blau. Risky plan. Weak logistics. Soviet surge sealed it. Another Hitler gamble lost amid El Alamein routes and African landings toppling Italy. Germany's war? Now a frantic defense, hurtling toward oblivion.